Hey, Writerly Besties, welcome back to the Writing with Anna New podcast, where we talk about all things writing. In today's episode, I have been a naughty writer. I have, I just feel so, I feel so cool. Anyways, guys, I have started to write a new book. Yeah, I'm a bad writer, I know. You know how you get those shiny new ideas and you just drop everything and run after it like you're crazy. And I am just so excited about this project and I just like don't even care anymore. Like I should feel guilty, but I don't. And I low-key love that. But anyways, in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about my new project, Project O, which is Project Orchestra. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, definitely do. But I kind of, really update you guys on my Instagram stories like all the time. So you should definitely follow me over there. It's just underscore Anna New. And then also in this episode, I hope to kind of talk about, the sort of like organizing and prioritizing your projects and how that looks for when you do get these sorts of bursts of inspiration and stuff like that. And it is definitely really, really hard to kind of say no and derail from your priorities and your sorts of responsibilities as a writer. And it's definitely hard, but I'm going to be talking about that in today's video. So I hope you guys enjoy this very chit-chatty video. Let's go ahead and get into it. Okay. I get to talk about my project. I hope this also helps you guys because I know sometimes a lot of people like me talking about my projects because it makes you guys inspired. Like, oh my gosh, it makes me so excited. But anyways, Project Orchestra. Oh my gosh. Okay. Before I kind of tell you like the plot and like the synopsis basically, I want to just say like how randomly this book grasped me. Like this idea just randomly came out of nowhere. And I have technically had this idea. It was just basically a scene that I kind of had, or just kind of like a premise of the book. And that sort of premise was that there's a conductor and he ends up walking past a busking violinist and captures his attention. Like that was just the only idea I really had. And I've had that for a while. And I think I got inspired by like one scene in this particular anime I watched. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. It was like literally one shot. I'm like, oh, I have this idea. And I kind of like put it away. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm not gonna touch it. But then it just randomly, literally, I don't remember. I try to remember so hard before I started this episode how this book grasped me. But it just randomly, like one afternoon, I'm just like, I'm gonna write that new book. Or maybe it was like I was scrolling on Pinterest or something, but it grabbed me. Okay, that's basically what I'm trying to say. This book by my neck, it was trying to kill me. So obviously I couldn't work on project. I first met you in a graveyard, which I was supposed to work on the second draft this month, but I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna plot another book because if you maybe don't know, I just finished my zero draft of Project Prison. So now I kind of, it's like a good sort of starting point where I can like, okay, like I can choose this or this. So I'm not really like halfway in between anything, if that makes sense. Okay, but sorry, I talk about everything too much. Project O, let's talk about it. Okay, so Project O, I kind of like, I guess, talked about the premise, but it's set in the romantic era. Like, if you guys know the 1800s to the 1900s, it was kind of like the romantic revolution where art and like music, poetry, writing, and like drama, and just like the more deep sort of emotion and human, like the kind of, I don't know, emphasis of the human condition and like feelings and everything just like came to being and was such a cool revolution. And I'm kind of a history freak. I love modern history so much. I remember studying it in high school and I adored it with all of my heart. I wish we went over this topic, but I was just like researching throughout like the whole week basically about this, and like I just like thought it was so cool. So it's set in London, this book, in the 1800s, kind of like at the very start of the romantic era, and it follows this boy. He's kind of like a really young adult. He's like around 22, 23, and he has black hair and he has like really long hair. I don't know if it's black or brown, but it's like really dark long hair. He always wears suit, and he's like from a very good family name. However, there's kind of like a twist that I don't know if I'll reveal, but he is kind of rich, and that kind of helped him become a very popular conductor and composer of music. So he kind of does that, the little do 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 do. If you're watching on my YouTube channel, you can see me like it's kind of like, they hold those sticks and they like conduct the orchestra. Yes, so that's Alexander. That's one of the main characters. The second main character is Lewis, and if you of course remember, he's the violinist who Alexander walks past, who is sorry, I just like that was embarrassing. Sorry. What was that voice crack? Oh my gosh, dude, my episodes, my podcast is actually so what's the word? Like it's so no, it's just off the rails. Anyways, Lewis, he is actually a runaway from another country, chasing his dream to become a violinist, and he's busking away on like the street on the outskirts of London, and Alexander somehow happens to walk past him and be like, "Oh my gosh, like this guy's really good." He's really good. No. And they kind of like have eye contact and it's just like, oh my gosh, like cool. And they like, and then Alexander like recruits them basically back to the orchestra. But then Alexander kind of realizes that, this guy, this busker, actually like can't read music. He can't like do he can't really do the traditional things that you would expect to do in a sort of, very famous and like prestigious orchestra. But because Alexander is so like, I don't know, he's so like talented and like everyone has like, respect for him, they kind of allow him to recruit this guy, Lewis, because he's very good. Alexander's very good at like spotting talent and stuff like that. So even though like Alex is very young, Alex still is like very, yeah, respected. So when Lewis comes in, Lewis kind of like wows everyone. And it's so, so cool because he can also like play in the orchestra, Lewis. He can like hear music. You know how people can like hear music, but they don't have to like technically read it. Does that make sense? So like he kind of jumps in literally into the orchestra. Like I guess this is like the first chapter sort of vibe. And then everyone's like, oh my gosh, like he's not even listening to music and he didn't even like practice this part, but he's somehow able to play with us. And it's like, oh my gosh. Anyway, so that's kind of like the premise of the story. Lewis ends up, learning more about Alexander and how like his past actually is not very good. And then Alex learns more about Lewis and why he ran away from home. And there's also two other characters that I really, really love. Oh my gosh, I love them so, so much. I think they're called Sora, and who's like a poet. She's like a poet, and then another writer or something, and they're kind of like an artist sort of group. And I think it's just gonna be like such a good like story because it's all about art and emotion and like society, and it's kind of like at the start again of the romantic era. So it is about like Alexander using basically Lewis as inspiration and them using each other to kind of spark this revolution. So it's kind of like a historical fiction, I guess you would say, but that's Project O. I am so excited. I don't think I've like talked too much in depth with like any other project apart from maybe Project Ghost or Project. Actually, I don't even talk too much about Project Ghost. But anyways, those are like my thoughts on that project so far. It's very much still in the brainstorming phase, and I've just like written the first 2.5 chapters as a zero draft. So I am excited. Anyways, let's like quickly just talk about how to prioritize your projects and actually organize them in a way that's good. If you guys don't know, my kind of like what's it called, like plan for this year is every single month I kind of do a what's it called, like a plotting month, a writing month. So last month I did a plotting month, which I plotted/wrote my zero draft of Project Prison. The second month, February, I'm supposed to write. So write Project I First Met You in a Graveyard. But of course this happened, and I think like honestly, the main thing I want you to take away from this episode in regards to like prioritizing your project so you can get the most out of your writing is to determine how it's really, really difficult actually, because I guess like people say just write it down, you'll get back to it. But then again, you're like, actually, if I write it down and I come back to it, my inspiration will be dead and I will probably just forget about it. You know what I mean? Like there's certain projects, and I think like you might feel it in your heart that like you just have to act upon. You know what I mean? The second thing also is the fact that if you're a writer and aren't like a author, like you don't have any deadlines basically, write whatever the heck you want, right? Like that's kind of my view on it because I was just like, I think I was like watching a TikTok of like some like author and she's just like, I have permanent homework for the rest of my life because I became an author. And I'm just like, I don't know if I want that. So I feel very blessed to have no sort of deadlines or anything like that. And the fact that I can just write whenever I want, whenever I want, and when like inspiration strikes, sometimes you just have to grasp at it. Um, so yeah, I think that was really, really good. And I think like in my particular situation, since I already have like, a draft and I was just gonna rewrite it sort of thing, like it's not like, that story has not been written yet sort of thing. It's not like I was halfway through a project, as I kind of said at the start of the episode. So it kind of really worked out for me, even though I do feel like a rebel, and it makes me feel so cool for like no reason. I don't know why. But yeah, that's the kind of episode. I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, that's kind of project O. That's kind of like, what I think about prioritizing your projects. Honestly, just go for it. If you have an idea that you've had for a while, or just like you just came up with a random idea at lunch, like just girl, just do it. Just start writing. And like honestly, the thing that I guess I would kind of give you advice on is you can definitely tell if it's a passing project or just like a project you have to write by writing what happens in the first chapter. If it's something that leads you to write straight after to the second chapter, that's a good sign that your project that you want to work on, you should work on. If it's something you're like, okay, I wrote that first chapter, it's kind of out of my system now, but I kind of want to, head back to my other one. Like, that's a good sign. So I guess that's a practical tip if you guys want to take that advice. But, anyways, thank you so much for watching, guys. I love you so much. I hope you enjoyed listening in to my rambling. And yeah, I'm like sweating in here. I don't know if you know, but in Australia, it's so freaking hot. Like, I don't even need to complain about my complaining because, I'd usually be like, Anna, just shut up. Like, you're in Australia. Like, who cares? But like, it's so hot here. It's so humid. And someone like needs to understand that. Like, I'm sweating right now. Anyways, I love you guys so much. And I hope to see you in my next episode. Bye, guys.